Hello, everyone. Welcome back for this new episode of Secrets of Leader. And today we have a special guest specialized in education, a person who travels around the world. And I'm so grateful that he made the time to be here with us today. And I'm welcoming Ambassador Otto Federico von Feigenblatt. And hello, Otto.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you so much for the introduction.
Thank you so much for being here today live. So we are live on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and is also a special podcast episode for Secrets of Leader. And before diving into the subject of education leadership around the world, could you introduce yourself a bit more for the people who don't know you yet?
Yes, of course. I'm an academic, but also I hold several governmental roles. My current post is as Andean Parliament Special Envoy for Education, and I'm also the head of the House of Feigenblatt, which is a governmental organization promoting education and international development. But most of all, I'm a student of leadership. I also coach a few people, and I write some books about leadership too.
And not only about leadership, because I have one of the books that you wrote as well, and you work a lot around education. And what I like with all the roles that you have also is that you have a leadership role, but you're also an educationer, an academician. So you can see this global subject, which is education, from lots of different perspectives, and also with a very global and international view because you travel a lot around the world to meet different leaders. And yes, so let's go straight into the subject now. What are the main challenges that education face or will face in 2025?
Well, I would say that the two main challenges one is a profound restructuring of education, and the other one is, of course, AI. I think artificial
Mm.
intelligence is really challenging us to think about education in a different way. That those changes in the economy, in the labor market, they're also challenging the trust that people have in education, because education, of course, has a cost. So all of that is resulting in a profound crisis in education at all levels, from primary education to higher education. So I think that we have to learn to adapt to this. I think education has to reinvent itself. And one of the main things is, what is the main purpose of education? We have to even question the essence of what is the purpose of what we call education. Is the purpose of education to teach content, to teach specific skills, or to teach people how to think? How are we different from artificial intelligence? What can we do that machines cannot do? How can we integrate what we do in higher education, for example, and what enterprises and the private sector is doing in terms of human resources? So all of this is causing a lot of change, and this change is happening very, very quickly. And of course, this uncertainty is giving us this sense of permanent crisis. But at the same time, I think that lots of positive changes are happening. I think that this is leading to the rise of new disciplines, and the reinvention of old disciplines. For example, careers and disciplines such as accounting are adapting and basically like rising to the challenge by trying to have more value added. Maybe as humans, every now and then, our own creations, such as artificial intelligence, governmental structures, everything that we do, all of the tools in society, they challenge us to be more human than before. And being human is all about adapting. All of this has caused a breakdown in a way in trust. And this, of course, has also resulted in a crisis of financing education. Examples of this can be seen in the United Kingdom, for example, that It is more difficult for universities to get funding. They have to be more creative. In many cases, they have to rely on the private sector to do fundraising. The same thing is happening in the United States, where we are having a profound change at the top, in particular at the federal level, as
Mm.
to what is the relationship between the government and education. How involved should the government be in guiding education? And at the same time, what is the relationship between the community, parents, and all the other stakeholders in leading this transformation?
I really like that you emphasize on the difficult challenges that we face, that the, let's say, the negative side, but also the positive side, as you said, that the opportunities are there as well. And what I really like also is when you say that with all those challenges, especially with AI, that we need to refocus on the human side of it. And yes, because knowledge now is literally everywhere. Now, people don't need to. Before with Google, we didn't even need to read that much that we can find information quickly. But now, students don't even need to think in a way because ChatGPT is able to write things for them. And I know when we were in Paris and you organized like a brilliant event on this subject, and we debated on how to what do we do as educators when students have access to all those tools, and what do we say to them? Do we forbid the usage of this tool, which is AI or Gen AI, or do we do something different? So in your point of view, when you mention AI, what educators or leaders in education should do knowing all this?
Oh, well, that's a very difficult question. Uh, it's a very difficult but important question because it requires rethinking what we do as educators. We went from data to information to knowledge, but I think that now we have to take the next step. We have to go from knowledge to wisdom, and
Mm,
that is the human aspect. We need to teach our students a lot more than how to be good professionals. We have to somehow guide them and help them grow as human beings. And in a way, that means that we have to reconnect with emotions, we have to reemphasize soft skills, and
mm,
in a way, it's going full circle. If you think about the development of the history of universities, we're going back to the humanism of Petrarch. We're going beyond modernism. We're skipping postmodernism because I mean that's kind of depressing, especially for young people who want to see actual progress. And we're basically going back to that idea that yes, we have certain control over our lives, we have all of these tools, but what makes us powerful as human beings is that we make mistakes. Some of our decisions are irrational, but we have that willpower to succeed.
mm. Very interesting. From knowledge to wisdom. What is? How do you make the difference between knowledge and wisdom? And then how can a young person do uh, do the jump? Can do the jump because in lots of people's mind, wisdom is acquired through time, and only old people has wisdom.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's not as easy, right? It's easier to say that you take data and you interpret it into information, but wisdom takes time. Wisdom requires self-reflection. But at the same time, if we look back at Greek philosophers and how they understood education at the time of the classical Greece, education was meant to be a long-term process. I think that we were in a way misguided in thinking that education was a short-term event, a discrete event in time. It's almost like we uploaded a program into our heads and that was it. You know, you were educated. Education is a lifelong process. Wisdom is not an absolute certainty. It's not something that you possess in every aspect of your life. So I think that education needs to be more like a long term mentorship. And in this, I think that coaching, in particular leadership coaching, has a lot to teach higher education. It is more flexible. It is about relationships. It always has this process of reflection and correction and growth, sort of like what Humboldt called Bildung, that idea that you build yourself as a holistic being. And that is what we have to work with our students. We need to prepare them for a lifelong journey that involves not only understanding this ontological reality and of course the basic sciences and all of the new technologies, but most importantly to understand how they relate to those technologies. And I think that that part about the nexus between technology, economy, and individual is what we can call wisdom nowadays.
Yeah, I find it is really on point and especially up to date with including technology in that vision of wisdom, because for a long time it was against wisdom against technology, but actually we live with it now. And as I said in the introduction, you travel a lot, you work with lots of different countries and lots of different cultures, and especially unfortunately, especially in education, we like to compare systems, to compare universities, to compare countries. Are there some countries which are doing better than others in terms of education? And if yes, which ones?
I think that the PISA scores are very clear that East Asia is doing very well in terms of education.
Mm,
Obviously, the variables are many, and it's very difficult to isolate the causes as to why Singapore, South Korea in particular, is doing well. China is doing very well. Japan to a certain extent. But I think that the reason why they're doing so well is the focus on the basics. That focus on the basics and also that idea of discipline, of self discipline, at the end of the day, that is one of the most important things when it comes to education. No one can educate you. That is a misconception. It's not a passive process. As a student, you need to put a lot of effort to learn. Learning is an individual, very personal process. So, in a way, we have distorted the whole understanding of education in the West in thinking that everyone around the student is responsible for the education of the student. Everyone except the student himself.
mm,
And that leads to very passive students who expect to basically go to a school and they think they're going to a five-star resort, almost like they're going to be massaged into learning. It doesn't really work that way. A better way of understanding this is that you get a gym subscription, but you have to go and lift the weights, you have to put in the effort, and they can guide you, you can have a personal trainer, but at the end of the day, depending on how much effort you put into it, and of course your physical abilities, your aptitude, many other elements, how far you're going to get along that learning journey. And I think in that respect, Asian cultures have a huge advantage over us. We have lost that self discipline of the time of the Victorians, or you could say the greatest generation during World War II. That idea of self sacrifice, of putting the effort, going the extra mile. And that's why when we talked about wisdom, that is part of it. It is that sometimes it's not going to be easy. Learning is not
mm,
always going to be fun. Sometimes you're going to have to memorize that quadratic equation. And for students to do that, they need to understand that the collectivity, society needs them, their families need them, and their success depends on their effort. And I really think that East Asia is doing very well in that respect. They have
mm,
kept their focus. Whether that system is going to work well in the West nowadays, that is a different story. But I think that the scores in standardized tests, they really show that their system right now is more efficient and it leads to very good results in terms of learning outcomes.
mm. Yes, and yes, because in the end, when we learn this with our brain, it's our own brain. So we have to to train it to do. It's as if I go to the gym and I have the best coach and best machines, but I don't use them or I don't go there regularly. It's
Mhm.
not because I have the greatest machine and the greatest coach that I will get fit. I need to do the work, and you're totally right about that. And I think it's quite inspiring to hear that. And you said earlier that it's a lifelong process. It's not just we go to uni and then when we have the diploma, that's it. Okay, we educated now, it's finished. So especially with this VUCA world, which VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, that it changes over time. So we have to self-actualize ourselves a lot. And we have a person on LinkedIn who's asking us, how about elder people who probably struggle more with technology? How can they update themselves regarding AI?
Well, the first thing to ask yourself is, what do you need it for? Because when we talk about AI, it has so many applications.
Mm,
And one mistake that we make sometimes is that we want to adopt technology just for technology's sake. So the question is, would bringing in AI help you do your job better than you already do it? In some cases, the answer will definitely be yes. In other cases, the answer could be no. Actually, it's adding another variable, it's adding another expense that will make your life more difficult. So I think that awareness, obviously, we all need to be aware of the new developments. That's important. And then to take training in the particular tools that we need. So
mm,
pretty much we need to be focused. It doesn't mean that we're all going to be experts in all the apps of AI because that's impossible.
mm,
But to ask ourselves in our field of work, what are the main apps which can be used? How are they being used? And then to take some training specifically for those apps.
mm. And talking about apps, there's an app that I absolutely love to learn in a very contemporary way and a very short and effective way, especially with AI. It's TikTok, actually. Now I use a lot of TikTok, the TikTok search engine, to learn how to use or to discover tools first. Oh, I want to do this. Which tool is best for that? And then to find different tutorials as well. So maybe that's a out of comfort zone tool for elder people, but TikTok is actually, I think, a good way to learn. I don't know if you agree with me on this one.
No, I do. I mean, with very limited time. Sometimes you don't have 4 hours of time to train on an app that you might not like. So I
Mm,
agree that TikTok, YouTube videos, short tutorials, that way you're at least aware of what's out there.
mm, yes, that's true. Uh, Now, if we go back to leadership, especially in education, and because you noticed that what are the different challenges that we are facing today, and you observed what's working best, not working anymore. So, what would be the type of leaders that we would need today um, regarding the educational systems today?
Creative leaders. I mean, now we need innovators more than ever before. We're going to need leaders who really understand the nexus between technology and people. That is going to be very, very important. And leaders who can feel comfortable working with people who are smarter and more knowledgeable than they are. Because that age of factory style micromanagement in education is really coming to an end.
Hmm.
People are very diverse, and that's exactly what we need if you think about it, especially in higher education. And when you're leading people who, in many cases, have more experience than you do, they have a lot of content knowledge. Your job is to make their jobs easier, is to facilitate the interaction in your team. So, the leader of the future is a great facilitator,
Hmm.
and it's someone who can uh, facilitate pretty much the interaction between resources, people, and society at large. Because if there's one thing that we can see today is that the relationship between the community and educational institutions can be the success or the failure of those institutions.
Mm. And do you think that you need to be born as this kind of leader, or is that something that anyone who's willing to put the effort in and who's willing to change can also become this type of creative and facilitating leader?
Well, that's the whole nurture versus nature
It is.
debate. And
It
as
is.
an educator, I believe that nurture is important. I think that we
Okay.
can all learn to be
Mm,
bold. I mean, we have, of course, our personality traits, but we can all learn to be innovators. We can train ourselves to handle more uncertainty, which I think is something that we all need in this historical time. But as leaders, you can train yourself, you can slowly take steps to feel comfortable being bold, accepting, for example, more mistakes. There can be no innovation without mistakes. And in higher education, education in general, we are very conservative.
mm,
We're really stuck in old methods of doing things. Like one of the things that you always hear in universities and schools is, but we've always done it this way.
mm,
Well, yes, just because we've been doing it like this for 40 years, the reality of the context today is not what it was 40 years ago. So I think that we have to consciously try as leaders to be more flexible. In a way, we have to emulate leaders in the technology sector. But if you think about especially those big data corporations like Google, Meta, they're used to making mistakes and some pretty big ones, but
mm.
the culture of that industry accepts that margin of mistakes, that margin of error, which I think in education we're not so comfortable with that yet.
Mm. So lots of things to learn from other industries or other cultures, and that's why you said that we need diversity, generally speaking, because this, through diversity we can find new ways of doing things. So yeah, that was fascinating. I know that we would be able to talk for hours and hours, changing the world about education and leadership. But I would like to go back to you as a leader. And what was your most challenging leadership moment that you had to face, and how did you do it?
I would say that the greatest challenge that I've faced is dealing with coworkers who are smarter than I am, who have a lot more experience than I have, and telling myself that it is okay to delegate.
Mm,
That idea that you have to give them room to make certain decisions without your input, but at the same time somehow motivate them and guide them towards a common goal. It's truly an art and a science. And that is something that no amount of books can teach you. It's something that you truly have to learn along the way. So, in my personal experience, I've been blessed and challenged at the same time at having brilliant coworkers. But letting go that sense of control has definitely been the hardest challenge for me.
I can imagine, because especially if you launch a project and that was kind of your baby, and then you trust other people to do a job that, yes, should be better than if you do it yourself. So what did help you in letting go? Because you said, yeah, there's no training, or so what helped you in that way, to remove that mental block, if I can say that?
Reflection,
Mm,
constantly monitoring my emotions and evaluating my behavior, because that uncertainty is uncomfortable. We like to be in control, and the more structure we have in life, the more control we feel. But that same structure takes away creativity and can lower productivity. So what I do is whenever I am like eager to make that phone call to tell someone how to do something, or to send that email guiding them in the way that I would like to see it done, I tell myself, don't. It's gonna be okay. They know what they're doing. go and have a cup of coffee and do some meditation. And that really helps, like stopping
Mm.
yourself at that moment and thinking before sending that email makes a whole lot of difference.
That's a very, very good takeaway. Thank you for sharing this and this wisdom, because I think that's part of wisdom as well, compared to knowledge. And thank you for sharing all this. Do you have any other advice or a message that you would like to share to the people who are listening to us today?
The main message that I have is that we live in moments of very, very fast change and great changes, but certain things remain constant, and that is relationships, human emotions, certain attachments that we have to each other. So, as long as we remember that, no amount of change will take away our success. In a way, we still have that control. We are the ones who build, we're the ones who create. So, basically, be optimistic. Change can be
Mm.
good. Let's hope it's good this time.
Yes. Thank you so much. So, for the people who want to know more about you, I will tag you on LinkedIn so that they can find your profile. I will also put your website if the people wants to find you online as well. And yeah, thank you so much for all the wisdom that you shared today. And talk to you soon.
It was a pleasure. Take care. Thank you so much for the
Thank you.
opportunity.